All right, and we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lodgify's latest webinar. My name is Mikkel Radich, and I'm a content marketing specialist here at Lodgify. And I just want to start by giving everybody a big thank you for joining us. It looks like we've got people from all over the world calling in. So yeah, if you haven't told us yet where you're watching from, go ahead and drop it in the chat. We're excited to see where everyone's from. And yeah, thank you to everyone joining us today. Our topic for the webinar is, of course, upselling, and more specifically, how to put your upselling strategy and thus your revenue growth on autopilot. And to teach us about this today, we have with us here Annie Sloan, the CEO and co-founder of the Host Co. So thanks so much for joining us, Annie. We're super, super excited to have you here. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. I am Annie Sloan, the CEO and co-founder of a company called The Host Co., which specializes in upsells. And I'm also a short-term rental host and property manager. So I will tell you first, I feel your pain. And, and we're going to talk a lot about that and how to, again, really decrease work first and foremost in this space.
Amazing. Thank you, Annie. Yeah, Annie's got a great presentation for us today, and I'll be turning the reins over to her in a few minutes so she can get started. But first, a couple things for you all to keep in mind. Everyone in the audience is muted, so we cannot hear you. However, we can see the chat. So if you've got any comments, like where you're calling in from, or questions throughout the webinar, go ahead and put those in the chat on the right side of the screen there. Now, if you can't hear us, that obviously is an issue. So a couple things to try: tap the blue button that says tap to unmute sound. Try making sure that your audio is all the way turned up. And if neither of those things work, try exiting Crowdcast and rejoining. Oftentimes that'll do it. And then, since we get this question quite a lot, yes, the webinar is being recorded and we'll be sending out the recording tomorrow. So if you guys have to jump off early for whatever reason, or you missed something, no worries. You can always rewatch the webinar whenever you want. Now, a quick note on the webinar structure so you know what to expect. I'll be starting with an introduction to Lodgify for those of you who aren't familiar with us yet. Then I'll turn it over to Annie so she can give her presentation on upselling. And then, as always, we'll be ending the webinar with a Q&A session. So again, if you've got any questions right off the bat about upselling, or if anything occurs to you throughout the presentation, go ahead and put your questions there in the chat. And we'll try and get through as many as we can at the end of the webinar. And yeah, just keep in mind that this is really a great opportunity to get all of your upselling questions answered by a real expert on the topic. So don't hesitate to put any questions there you're curious about. Okay, so what is Lodgify? I know we've got a lot of Lodgify customers here with us today, so bear with me. But for those of you who aren't familiar with us yet, we are a vacation rental management software that helps you manage, automate, and grow your short-term rentals. So our goal is really to help you maximize the potential of your properties and take full control of your business. And we do that with an all-in-one solution. So it starts with our website builder, which helps you build a bookable website and accept direct bookings. Then you can use our channel manager to sync your listings, bookings, calendars, messages, all of that across your external channels. So places like Airbnb and Vrbo, as well as your direct booking site. And then our property management software, or PMS, is packed with tools like automation and AI tools, guest and task management, lots of stuff that helps you streamline your operations even further. And then you can use our mobile app to manage your business on the go from anywhere in the world. So truly an all-in-one solution. And then all of that's backed with free onboarding, setup training, and best-in-class customer support to help you get as much out of Lodgify as possible. Now, we are also continually rolling out new features to help you streamline your operations even further. And our latest new feature is Lodgify Smart Locks. Lodgify Smart Locks helps you automate your smart lock operations to save time, enhance security, and improve the guest experience. And it does this by automatically generating unique access codes for each and every reservation, and then automatically sending them to your guests. So you never have to worry about, oh no, did I send the code before check-in? right? They're automatically going to get that before it's their time to check in. And then you can also use Lodgify smart locks to manage all of your smart lock devices from all of the brands you work with directly from your Lodgify account. So no more logging into multiple sites or apps or having to remember different credentials or passwords. You can do it right from your Lodgify account. Now, if you want to learn more about Lodgify smart locks, you can find more information at lodgify.com/smart-locks. And if you want to give Lodgify a try, we do offer a free 7-day trial, which you can access using that URL there on the screen. Or if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a Try Lodgify for Free button that'll be there throughout the webinar. So if you're curious at all and want to give us a try, don't hesitate to do so. And on that note, I will turn it over to Annie to talk about upselling, and I'll let you share your screen, Annie.
Wonderful. Screen. Here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So a little bit about me before we dive into upsell smarter, not harder, which is how I got into upselling. And this element is I was in software. I'm in Silicon Valley, and I had short-term rentals. And I had this problem in my short-term rentals that probably many of you have, which is I could predict my guest questions, when they would happen and what they were. Things like, it's Saturday night. My rentals are in Landers, California, which is near Joshua Tree, way out there, right? Saturday night, 11 p.m. Hey, you know where we can get firewood at Saturday at 11 p.m., right? Or, hey, Sunday at 6 a.m. Hey, can we get a late checkout today? And first of all, those questions, you have to answer them right at the exact time, right? You have to be on them at the time. Second of all, you end up Saturday night, you're at dinner with your spouse, leaving and going in the hallway and texting back and forth, right? All of these things that are like, this is not a good situation. So automating those questions, and then, hey, if everyone's asking me for firewood on Saturday night and they can't get it because they're 20 miles from a store, why don't I have extra on site that I can sell them? Right. So interestingly, the host code came about not because of the revenue of upsells first, but because we were trying to solve our own problems about our time issues. So that is just an interesting element. My co-founder has built 2 large property management companies and had many of these same problems as well. So what we're going to talk about is, of course, how to do upsells, how to do them smarter, and of course, all the other things you get out of them, like revenue. So first, upsells can be a profit powerhouse. I think for many of us, we hear this and we're like, oh man, but like, I've tried to do that. I've tried to say, leave money on the table, or I've tried to say, oh, PayPal me. But when you have 30 guests, even if you have a great automation system, who's checking PayPal, right? How are you remembering who it was at the time? Oh, someone instant booked. They forgot their pet fee. You're chasing them down. You're like, here's a Venmo link, right? It's been a lot of work to do. And we're going to talk about how we decrease that work and increase revenue at the same time. The second thing is tips for sharing upsells that feel like value adds. I think the other thing that people think is, I don't want to sell anything to anybody, right? I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to be pitching something. And if you look at hotels, and you're going to see this on the next slide, hotels are making a lot of their revenue, their total revenue picture, from upsells. And the way that they're doing it is when you walk into a hotel, full service hotel, you walk in, you walk maybe past a gift shop, right? You walk up to the front desk and they say, oh, welcome. Are you interested? We have another room available. Would you like to upgrade your room? Oh, hey, your room's not available. Why don't you go down to the bar and have a drink? Right? Here's a coupon for 1 free drink, but you know what happens? You end up getting food at the same time, and that's an upsell. But it's always positioned to you like it is an extra. They're going the extra mile for you. Oh, hey, this is our spa menu if you'd like to add anything to your stay. Those are all upsells, but you feel like you're being treated so well while you're being upsold, right? The next thing we're going to talk about is, of course, decreasing the guest questions by up to 75%. And that is a real stat from property managers, by sharing offers at the right time. So that means you are essentially asking or answering your guest question before they have a chance to ask it to you. You're also setting their expectations of what they can get and the cost associated with it. So we'll talk about that. And of course, how to use upsells and offers to improve booking consideration, because having amenities connected to your rentals does give you a big differentiator, right, in your rental. And it even improves rebooking rates, because people sometimes will come and they'll say, oh, we had the best massage there, right? Or, oh, we did this really cool thing. Or, hey, we had someone come and do an outdoor movie night one night. Why don't we do our family reunion there next year, because they have this service, right? Even if it's an amenity connected to the space. So those are the things we are going to talk about. And obviously, why now for upsells? There's a few reasons. One, post-COVID, travelers certainly know a whole lot more about short-term rentals. The market is much more saturated. People are more comfortable, but travelers still will choose 7 of 10, choose hotels if they can over short-term rentals, right? Obviously, if it's small town or a lot of people, but if they can, they'll choose a hotel. And the number one reason is a lack of amenities, lack of a mid-stay clean, lack of extra towels on demand, lack of room service, right? All of those things. So the booking consideration is going to go more towards hotels. The second thing is that, as I said, full-service hotels are making about 30% of their overall revenue picture on upsells. That is a huge part of their stay. And during COVID as well, many hotels, obviously their booking rates dropped, but they didn't lose 60% of their revenue. They only lost, in many cases, 30, because they were making it up with interesting upsells, right? So upsells can be used not only in your high season, they are great for shoulder season, and they're a great way to not have to discount during shoulder season. And I will also tell you more about that. Now, what are upsells? Upsells is a very vague category. It's just like amenities. Amenities, very vague categories. So amenities are services, rentals, and products that enable guests to upgrade their stay. So those can be things like curated local amenities, like local service in your area, massage, chef, photo session, Reiki healer. This week we had a sale of mobile IV, where they come to the house and a nurse hooks it up, I guess, for your hangover. We see things from interesting local services from, hey, we're a service that will bring donkeys with saddlebags full of beer and walk around the property for an hour for your girls' weekend. It is a lot of different interesting amenities, but those start with generally things that you're going to see at hotels as well: massage, chef, and a couple of interesting elements there. Upsells are also on-site purchasable upgrades. Things like firewood. That also includes things like mid-stay cleaning, linen refresh, right? Things that someone is going to come from your team and service at the house. On-site purchasable items also include things like beach towels. If you're near the beach, people are losing your beach towels all the time. If you say, oh, you know what, you lost our beach towels, you can buy 2 more in this closet, right? That includes, oh, we lost your beach key. That includes, oh, we broke your lamp. And you know what? Instead of going through an entire, insurance process, hey, here you go. Here's the tile. It's $30. You can pay for that. That includes things like gift certificates for future stays, if you'd like to do that. So there's a lot of on-site purchasable upgrades depending on your rental and also how close you are to the rental. I think many people think about upsells and they think minibar. I would say avoid that like the plague, unless you are very close to your rental or you live on site for your rental. Upsells don't need to be 40 things that your guests can purchase on site, right? Other things would be rentable products. And we see this from bikes. Obviously, you need to have the right insurance, kayaks. We see people renting fancy movie night telescopes. We see people renting outdoor movie projectors, things that are just a little too expensive for you to give. The other thing with rentals is you can rent them for $1. You can rent them for $0, right? But what you're doing with this is you're making sure that you are keeping track of, by renting it, you're getting that guest information when they rent it. They're signing a terms of service that say, yes, I'm returning it here. You can also include hyperlinks to, you need to fill out this form, right? So it's another way to give them things that they're probably going to ask you for again, that you are just kind of getting out of the way. Next, alterations, pool heating, late checkout, extra guest, pet fee. I would also say if you're doing a pet fee, you should be doing a deluxe pet experience. People's fur babies are their babies. If you switch it from saying you got a pet fee to the pet fee plus 2 bowls and a handkerchief that says Sedona, Arizona, whatever it is, people are willing to do that. We also see people doing crate rentals, right? Or, hey, do you want to upgrade and include a dog bed so you don't have to lug yours across the country, right? And then, of course, upgrades, a parking pass, because maybe you need somewhere to park. It's downtown Chicago, right? Gratuity. If you have large properties, you can do things like gratuity. Hey, if you'd like to tip your cleaner, the great thing is with automation, it can text your cleaner every time someone leaves a tip. That is incredible for employee loyalty, things like that. And of course, gift certificates for future stays. Key benefits of offering upsells. Of course, it's going to add revenue. We see property managers who've added over, believe it or not, $10,000 per year in their upsells, right? They have 100 cabins around a lake. But an average listing is going to make between about $200 and $500 in sales per month on upsells. That average, it varies very, very widely depending on how booked you are and, of course, what you're selling. It improves guest experience. What we like to say is it is providing more memories for your guest. So sure, it's going to make them feel a little bit better at midnight if you have an extra snack. Maybe you give a free welcome basket full of snacks. What they're going to do is they're going to text you and say, oh, we got it at 11. Our kids are really hungry. Do you have extras of those? And you're going to say, yeah, go ahead into my store and you can get a couple more of those. And they're in this space, right? They're probably already on site. But that's also like, what is that amenity that when that person goes back home, they're going to share with their friend? Oh man, they had a sound bath healer that came to the listing. I'm giving you guys all the woo-woo examples because my rentals are in Joshua Tree, but you know what I mean. It gives you a competitive edge in marketing, booking, and rebooking. So when I say marketing, hotels do this all the time, right? They send you an email, especially if you're doing direct booking. They send you an email and say, this summer, we have a specialty chef. This summer, we have a pop-up art piece in our living room or whatever it is, right? So a really interesting example of this is we had a property manager who connected a mobile tattoo artist for the week of Coachella to their villa. So this is a great one. It is legal, right? This is very LA thing as well. But and 3 months before Coachella, they sent out an email that said, this year, on-demand mobile tattoo artists at our Coachella villa, book now, right? Everyone's going to open that email, even if they're not going to Coachella. And also they're going to remember that property. Another property manager who sends out a marketing email at the same time, hey, Coachella, early birds 15% off. You're discounting your product. You're discounting your brand. You're not giving someone an interesting story. So what amenities do is they give you something to talk about. Because I think for many of us, when you're sending your marketing emails, you're like, oh, there's a festival going on in town, or there's a new restaurant, right? That's okay, but tying something to your listing, even if it's not yours, but you're saying we have on demand a Reiki healer or new wellness amenities, you're giving people a reason to think about you and book. Same thing works for booking. You can talk about amenities, and none of this has to be through my company. There are other places that do this. This is very just general. Talking about it. You can add it to your website. We have on-demand wellness services. You can show a menu. Same thing a hotel does. Oh, hey, we've added a new, we've added tarot card reader or whatever it is you'd like to add to your listing to talk about it. That also improves rebooking. We have someone in Texas who has a number of tiny homes, and they added an all-in kit, which is when you get to the tiny home, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, firewood, s'mores, and a case of water, right? They are making more money from that than the overnight rental in a tiny home, which is interesting. But the second part of that is they added a Bigfoot experience, which is on Saturday night, someone on their team, for the kids sitting around the fire. This is a very specific thing. Bigfoot comes out of the woods, right? And they said, we've had people book and then rebook 3 weeks later with the other members of their family because they wanted to show them that experience. So things like that for rebooking. And lastly, it's going to decrease guest questions. So how that works is, if you are a property manager or a host, you probably already know the questions that your guests are going to ask. You're going to get them over and over again, right? So by showing them upsells right when they book, they are no longer asking you that question, right? They're getting the answer to that question. You can also say, hey, here's where you get reservations for that hotel, for that restaurant that everyone goes to here, right? If you're going to Yountville, California, you're trying to go to the French Laundry. you should be putting something in your store to link to that thing, right? I will say also the insight here with decreasing guest questions is a really interesting one. I think many of us, when people book, you say, great, check out our welcome guide. It's going to give you driving directions. It's going to give you local recommendations. And, we'll give you check-in notes closer to the date. People do not get excited about a welcome guide, right? Unless they want the Wi-Fi or something like that. People love to shop, especially the person doing the booking in many cases. If you say, check out what we have available as upgrades or shop our listing, I mean, the click-through rate's insane. People like to shop and they like to browse, right? Particularly if you have one thing that you need people to do, if you're doing direct booking, and you can say, hey, check out our store, and in it you will see our rental damage protection for $30, right? If you give them something they need in a store and then surround it with other things that they might like, it's very much retailing, right? Like, oh, you know what? We do want a natural wine sommelier to come to the house for the girls' weekend. That seems so fun, while they're going to look for an early check-in. The other thing that showing people upsells when they book does is it sets their expectations. So if you are going to charge for an early check-in, say, right? Your guest is probably not going to ask you right when they book for an early check-in. But by saying, hey, check out all of our offers, right? If you're looking for a massage, chef, etc., they're going to see that it's in your offers, and they're going to see that it has a cost. So that is a huge part of decreasing guest questions. If previously you had 10 people a day asking for an early check-in, now you might have 2, because those are the 2 people that are willing to pay for it, which is also you're spending your time to move things around or make sure your cleaner knows, etc. So again, thinking about what is it my guests are always asking and putting it in front of them before they even ask. You can do that all throughout their stay as well. If people are always asking you about your sheets and you got them from, let's be honest, Wayfair because you're a host, right? Or Target or something like that. You can put a link to them and say they're in our store, right? And it will then link out to Amazon or, Wayfair, and you can get an affiliate for that. So just really having those questions answered before they even get there is a huge part of the benefit of upselling, and again, decreasing that workload for you or your team. Okay, positioning upsells to guests. Always position upsells, as I said, as a value add. Your offerings are extras, they're upgrades, they're exclusives, they're specialty, right? Even if it's something small, you are saying, hey, if you'd like to add anything extra to your stay, right? I would also say don't sell coffee pods. Don't sell a toothbrush, right? Give whatever you can give for free, right? Or bundle it. So the second thing here is whatever you can give for free, give. If you are currently giving a welcome basket, if you're giving them something to take home, keep doing that, right? You're looking for better and better hospitality, but they may say again, oh, can I get another one of those? Or, oh, hey, we loved that thing. Do you have extras of those, right? The next is if you do offer low cost items, consider bundling them. So my co-founder has properties in Death Valley. Death Valley, people go there and they do not realize it is the driest place on earth, right? You will give your right arm for chapstick. You will not even understand how badly you need chapstick until you go to Death Valley, California, right? But selling chapstick on its own is like, just give people chapstick for free, right? But that adds up. That's part of your whole picture. Have a kit that's local products of the hydration kit for your guests specifically. They will love that. They will buy it. And guess what? They will probably take a picture of it, especially if you have a sticker that has your property management company on it. Or if you go to Etsy and you're getting a kit that's like a hangover kit that has your logo on it or something cheeky, something fun to say, right? And then also really listening for what additional services and amenities your guests are looking for. We talk to a lot of property managers who are very wary of doing upsells because they're like, oh yeah, well, I have this idea for like this bohemian picnic on the beach, but I need to talk to the flower person. I want to make sure our runner can do this thing. I would always say start with the basic stuff, right? Start with your massage, your chef, your late checkout, and maybe 2 other things that people in your area are going to need or want. And then you start to hear from your guests, right? You start to hear what it is your guests are asking for that maybe you or your on the ground property manager hasn't really been listening for, before. And what we often see is people who are like, I'm just going to try a couple of things. They start making more money over time because they start going, oh, you know what people really need? Or you know what, we know this thing is coming up and people are asking for this thing. So always positioning them as those services and adding them on as your guests are asking for them is a huge part of it. Tips and tricks for communicating upsells. Communicate that you have additional offerings in your automated messages, right? So that means, hey, again, if you'd like to add any services or amenities like massage, chef, a late checkout, whatever it is, deluxe pet experience, I'll get anyone to click on that link, right? Check out our storefront or check out our page, right? If you say, hey, check out our upsells, no one knows what that is. It's not exciting. You're not giving them anything to shop, right? So making sure you're communicating that you have specific things and where they can find those specific things. And you can always experiment with different specific things, but generally the basic works. And I'll show you what I say to my guests, right? And make sure you're automating that completely. You are adding that to your thank you for booking message. 1 week before they stay is the time when people are going to actually buy things. And then generally at check-in, just reminding them that you have those offerings. So again, upsells, more tips. Upsells should surround your guest needs. Start with that must-have and give your guests more and more reasons to visit the page, right? To come back to that page. Show them the most requested or top-selling items first. That's a pretty, easy one, right? That you're going to show them what they need and next to it showing something that they want, right? Again, start with the easy wins and add creative and fun upsells as you go. You may already have some of these easy wins on hand. Extra recycling pickup, mid-stay cleaning. We have campsites and glamping that uses us as well. And they say, would you like us to set up a fire for you, ready to go before you get there, city folk? Slam dunk. Yes, everyone's going to buy that, right? And sometimes you have people that are on site managing it that are kind of twiddling their thumbs, looking for more to do. And before automation from upsells, it's kind of weird for you to walk up to someone and be like, hey, you want me to set up your fire? It'll be $20. That's what we're trying to remove here, is that if people are always saying like, hey, it's a really long way into town, where can we get breakfast? Hey, you can, there's so many things you can do that are already there in terms of those easy wins. Luggage storage in some areas is another one. Of course, again, not all upsells are created equal. Don't be a hostile and sell someone a toothbrush, right? Make sure you're bundling them or you are really focused on those frequent selling items, not on those specialty items. Okay, now getting to the decreasing workload, increasing revenue. I think you probably hear this all day if you're a property management company. Automate absolutely everything. So the first part of that is creating a digital space to show people your upsells, right? The host code does that with a digital storefront, but you can put them on your website. You can put them in your booking flow. Just make sure that you're communicating those things way before your guest gets there. It might even be 4 months before. I mean, people are booking later and later, as we know, but sharing those upsells right when they book. Sharing them in your description if you want, right? Hey, you know what we have on these on-demand services? We had a listing that rebranded as a wellness destination just by adding amenities. They didn't even add a yoga mat, on site. They're like, we're a wellness destination, right? Making sure you are communicating those through your automated messaging so you don't think about it. You're not answering any of those questions. Then making sure, again, you are sharing wherever you are showing your upsells through your automated messages. If it's through your OTA, your automated messages, or Lodgify, you're going to be having all of your messaging through that, which highly recommend. Again, at booking, a week before arrival, and at check-in. You can also offer items at checkout. If you have items that people are going to want, you can automate that too. Hey, if you'd like a gift certificate for a future stay, right? If you'd like to tip your cleaner, here is one that I see hosts doing that is really cool and surprised me. You can have a shipping. Someone forgets their laptop, they need it across the country. The next morning, you can have a shipping fee, a return package fee, $35 return package fee, right? Then you can also have something that is the actual postage for that item. But also, if you're including that, if you're letting people know that that's a thing when they book, they're not going to come. They're not like, oh man, really? But of course, again, Landers, California, where my rentals are, the post office is open like 4 hours a week and you never know which 4 hours it is, right? So it takes a whole day of work to return someone's laptop. So make sure that you are communicating that, and you are being compensated for that. And you can share upsells anytime throughout their journey. So this is what I say, and my co-founder says to our guests. Thanks for booking. We'll be in touch with check-in specifics prior to your arrival. If you need driving directions or local recommendations, check out our welcome guide in the link below, because you can nest your welcome guide into your upsells, which highly recommend. Again, more people are going to actually look at it if you say they can buy something. You can also use this link to book an early check-in, late checkout, or a local service like massage or private chef. Please reach out if you have any other questions. To me, that sounds like a very high-end rental, right? Again, a week before your trip is coming up, if you'd like to add any pre-order services like early check-in, a local massage, or a tour guide, click the link below. These services require a few days advance notice, so we recommend ordering them now if you're interested. Otherwise, we'll be in touch with entry instructions closer to your stay. So again, you're just answering the questions that maybe they were just about to text you and ask, right? Hey, where's that massage therapist? Prior to automating upsells, you give them a phone number. The guest gets back to you 30 minutes later. Oh, they're not answering. Do you have someone else? You give them another number. Oh, they're not available. Do you have someone else? So eliminating all of that back and forth through automation. Automation looks something like this, where you're going to show people what they can buy: massage, firewood, local experiences, on-site yoga class, flower delivery, especially if you know that they're coming for a special occasion, which you can also ask them through upsells. You can offer them stuff that they're going to need for their stay. And then the second part of that is automating fulfillment. And I think this is the part that stops people, or that gives them a pause, like, oh, okay, I mean, them buying it is fine, but like, what about the back end of that, right? So what automating fulfillment means is you can set things up so your guest requests any service or product. That doesn't mean that they can automatically buy any service or product. They can request it. If they are requesting a service, an upsell from you, you can get a text and an email. Hey, Annie Sloan has requested, mid-stay cleaning on this day at this time at this location. Can you fulfill this service, right? You can also send that request to your cleaner directly to say, yes, I can fulfill it, right? An example of that is, let's say you're a property manager in a coastal town, and everyone's coming there and wants portrait photography, right? Or some people want it. Other people, if you offered it, they probably want it, like, oh, family photos on the beach, right? It's our big vacation. You can offer that. And if you have a sister who's a professional portrait photographer, is a good example, you can set up upsells to send that request to your sister. Hey, can you do portrait photography or any company this day, this time, for these people for this much money? Yes or no, right? And you can hold their credit card info during that request time. How it works with the host co specifically is those requests go to our concierge team, and we match them with one of our vendors and say, are you available at this time to do this thing for these people, right? If you have on-site products, you can set things up where they don't have to request it. They can just buy it, but it locks information on the back end. Hey, that firewood is in the garage under a tarp. Take only one item, right? We have of someone that has it's a castle in Italy. They're also a professional chef, and they sell their cookbooks. And they've said, man, it was such a pain selling my cookbooks, but now you can just take you can pay, and then I'm going to tell you where the cookbooks are, right? Or you can see them and they're in a cabinet and there's a key, anything like that. Same thing with things like beach keys, extra towels, etc. The next thing is fulfillment partners should always be automatically connected. So previously, how you did it might be, hey, cleaner, can you do a mid-stay clean on this day at this time for these people? Oh, they didn't text you back. Hey, pinging you again. Can you do this thing at this time? Oh, yes, we can. Oh, which guest was that? So eliminating all that work and having a list of, this person requested this, I've approved it or denied it, or neither. This person has requested this, I've set it so someone else can approve it or deny it. It's on a calendar. We're seeing when it's happening. We're seeing how much they're paying, etc. Basically, no more middleman, no more midnight questions, right? And most of those you're going to miss anyway. A big part of automation is having life be able to happen asynchronously. Because, and a lot of times you might miss someone's early check-in request, right? And like, oh shoot, I could have made money from that, but it wasn't enough for me to wake up at 4 a.m, right? Things like that. And then also making sure that their payments are all digital and it's just a payout system for you. People don't care. It depends on where you are in the world. But in many places, people don't really carry cash anymore. right? So making sure that however you're doing your upsells, they can pay you digitally and you don't have to be there to get it. Not like, oh, and things like Venmo and Zelle, that works, but you're still doing the same thing of like tracking down, did they actually pay me? So having something that says you just got paid is another one of those things. You can do that. I mean, you can do that eBay, Shopify, or through someone like us. So questions that I get asked all the time, trending upsells. And we see thousands of upsells a month at this point, many thousands of upsells. Anything wellness, and this is also on a global scale, we see users in the 17 countries have listings, and then you have a larger global audience for that as well. Anything wellness related is going to do well. That is not just physical wellness, that's mental wellness, that's wellness, that's spiritual wellness, yoga, private massage, healthy catering. We see people buying vegan charcuterie boards. I don't know what's on a vegan charcuterie board, but they sell a sound bath, a meditation teacher. There's so many of those things and those services coming to the house. So, and a big change also post-COVID is people are going to short-term rentals and they don't want to go out, right? That is their vacation. Maybe they'll go out during the day, but they want things often to come to them, right? Anything food related is still a huge thing. So local snack basket, family event, hibachi night guy. The person that's doing the booking, they have to also, generally they're the planner, figure out what they're doing every night. So if you're like, hey, we have a hibachi night guy, he comes to the house. Great. We've seen recently a crawfish boil for 14 people, a picnic for 12 people, right? Just automating that, right? And then specialty services of like things like charcuterie boards or something that your guests want to photograph or something that if it's a group that people ooh and ah when it comes in the room, right? So a big birthday cake, things like that. Specialty rentals, on-site amenities, obviously pool heating, bikes. I can also say you can rent someone a bike for free, which I actually highly recommend, and then rent them a helmet or a lock for a cost because you are decreasing your liability if you have something on site, and also make sure you have the right insurance for that. Parking passes, luggage storage, pool passes in some areas where you're in a condo and they only allow 3 extra people. Last minute alterations. I think we all know people are booking later and later. Late checkout, early check-in, extra guest, 5-hour late checkout or half a day, right? Those things always sell. And then on-site items, depending on where you are, firewood, a case of water, if that's not potable water, anything for pets. Anything for pets. And again, if you want to give things for free, I highly encourage that. But people love it when you give them a whole case, a basket of stuff, right? And then on-site experiences and things like a mid-stay cleaning, linen refresh, often on Vrbo. People, I don't see this as much on Airbnb, but people need to bring their own linens depending on where you are in the world. Linen rentals, that is also something that we see selling. And I will stop down and we can start a Q&A, but obviously where to find out more on the HostCo side, you can book a demo, you can watch a demo, you can watch a short video on how it works. And then we also have, of course, everything for HostCo users who are here for Lodgify. We love Lodgify and we integrate directly with Lodgify. So you can make, and by the way, the HostCo is free. So you can make a free HostCo store from every one of your properties instantly.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Annie. Lots of great tips. And I especially love hearing all of the random upsells that you've seen. That's so fun. Like I would never in a million years think to sell so many, like most of the things you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Right. So no, that's super fun. Okay. So reminder to everybody, we've got some questions, but reminder, if you haven't put your questions in the chat yet, to go ahead and do so. And I actually want to start with my own question that occurred to me while you were presenting. What is the most bizarre or fun or crazy upsell you've seen so far in your work?
So I'll start with the other day we had a guest buy $3,600 in amenities, and they were not at a super expensive property. It was just a girls' weekend. So they bought 4 massages, a chef's dinner for 8, and a guided hike around the property. It was like a guided hike around the entire area, right? And $3,600. It's like they're spending more on that than they are on their upsells.
Yeah.
I would say the Bigfoot experience is a really interesting and odd one. Um, I saw an alpaca tour this morning as well. Axe throwing, which you have to go to you have to go to the
Right, right.
vendor. You definitely cannot do that kind of thing on site. Um, we have someone who only sells um, Christmas ornaments in the shape of North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, and they don't sell anything else. So we have someone who's added, it's so niche because you as the property manager know what your guests are coming for and we don't. So I have the fun job
Yeah.
of seeing all the stuff. A knitting experience, this like knitting influencer in the Hudson Valley was like, oh, I have set it up. So it's like a basket of knitting supplies. And then we have a local knitting expert come over to the house because she's
Mhm.
the influencer. So that's her upsell.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
It's got to be so fun for you every day, like logging in and seeing
Yeah.
what are what's the new crazy upsell.
Yeah, we do see quite a bit. I mean, the big hitters are going to be massage, late checkout, something that is food, and rental damage protection are the four that like almost any guest is going to be like, yep, give me those. Right.
Yeah, right. They can't fail.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, let's dive into our Q&A. And yeah, once again, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the chat. But we'll start with a question that we actually got twice. So must be pressing, I think, specifically for people, at least in Italy and Greece. But the question is, let's cut off, I'll read it. So my rental is in Italy, where I'm registered as a non-professional, meaning that I cannot offer additional services, even breakfast, without jeopardizing my tax status. Do you have suggestions for upsells that do not give the appearance that I'm offering services beyond lodging?
Yeah, and we have a lot of users in Europe. And I would say this is not legal advice, but things that you can sell on eBay, you can sell to your guests. So if you have specific souvenirs, if you have, again, a cookbook, if you have a tour. So the other thing that your Hostco store can do is it can link to a third-party provider. So you can get some of the revenue from that service, right? So, hey, we have someone in Italy that does a truffle experience, right? And they have someone who was already doing that for their guests, but they've automated it. So they're essentially getting paid for it. And then they're paying out their third party provider. I'm trying to think of other things that seem like you're already doing a pet fee. If you are saying, hey, we have pet gifts or things like that. We also see people in different European countries. And again, this is not legal advice. Adding their city tax that they have to collect if they're doing direct booking through their Hostco store, because it just makes it easier for them to collect those taxes. The other thing is, depending on where you're located, we use Stripe. So Stripe will, depending again on where you're located, calculate sales tax on items for you. I think in Europe it's not doing that yet, but it is keeping all of that information for you. And it is also sending you tax documents at the end of the year. So very similar to something like eBay, it's going to tell you, here are all the things you sold this year. Here's the cost of those things. And you can now do with that what you will for your tax reasons.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Here's another maybe legal-ish question. Do you need a sales permit with the local government? Obviously, this is going to be location specific, right?
Yeah, I would look it up. Again, it is quite similar to something on eBay if you're selling it. I will say we opened 3 years ago. We've never seen any problems with this. But again, I would look at what is covered. I mean, for a tot tax, you don't want to do a shoulder stay. You don't generally see, like, we don't have templates for overnight stays because we want you to go to the direct booking site to do that appropriately. The cool thing is with your Hostco store, people love to shop. You can put a tile in it that says book your next day, and it can be just a link out to your direct booking site. Right. So you don't even need to use the Hostco store for the actual purchase in many cases, but it's it's showing them a storefront, right? In many instances across many OTAs, someone can buy something like a late checkout or a pet fee. It's hard to find, and it's hard for them to come back to it, and you have to point them out to it. Versus It's the end cap at a grocery store. Here's everything that we have to offer. Here's everything you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Similarly, we have another question on that front. How do you market these amenities on Airbnb and Vrbo?
You obviously can't include a link before your guest books. You can talk about them. You can show photos and say like, hey, we have on-demand wellness services like Reiki, and show like the Reiki healer, like a group doing a meditation thing, right? Um, that is again, that's a more interesting photos if someone's deciding between three properties that look the same, right?
Right.
You can talk about them. You cannot include a link to them until after your guest books. Just like with any property management software, with Lodgify, you're going to get a link through the automated messaging of where to do additional things, right? So very similar to that. If you have a direct booking site, you can have a widget, or you can even have a page that is just all of your offerings. You can add, if it's a Hostco, you can add your Hostco store as a page, and people can see it and be like, oh, wow, look at all this stuff they have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Um, okay, kind of on the same note, how can I connect local partners to my store in order to automate fulfillment?
So there's two ways that we do this. So the Hostco has about 7,500 vendors. Most are in North America at this point because that's our main market. You can purchase things in any currency, but it's only displaying for a very short time US dollars. So one thing is you can contact the Hostco and say, hey, everyone in my area wants a pink Jeep tour. That's all anyone wants to do these days. Can you add that service in my area so people can book it? And what we do is our concierge team then has it in our system, and we book it, and we give you 5 to 10% of the revenue when someone books it. Or if you are outside of an area where we do these things, you can add your own people. And on the back end, you can connect their name, their email, their phone number to get that request when someone books. So we have a fair amount of people who say, hey, we have 90 doors or whatever it is. We already have a chef that we use all the time. But what we have to do is we have to text the guy, like, hey, are you available? What you can do is put that in your store, and in the title say, text and email Joe Smith when someone requests this to see if he's available to do it. And then if Joe Smith is available, it will process the payment, and it'll pay you, the host, out. And you can then say, Joe, invoice me for the number of things you're doing. Since we haven't vetted your person, we haven't vetted your sister, the portrait photographer, we're going to pay you out. And there's actually a lot more money to be made in that circumstance, because you can charge $500 and you can pay your sister out $200. I mean, you're not a very good sister in that case, but you're making a lot more money off of the
Right.
service that you're doing.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and this is a very similar question, but maybe there's more to speak to here. I live quite far from my holiday let, so I would only really be able to offer things like a hot tub hire and a personal massage that would be through a third party. I'm guessing I'm not really making money from that. I'm just offering a more personal service. But in this case, yes, you would be paying them out a lesser amount than, a little less than what you make, whatever percentage you decide on, right?
Yeah. And you can also, we have a queue that is very long, but it goes pretty fast, of onboarding vendors. So we don't allow any vendor to apply to be a vendor at the Hostco. We only get recommendations from property managers because what is in your area that is good. So you can say, hey, Hostco, can you add this thing? It might take several months to add it. We also don't add a lot of people because, they don't answer their phone, or they're not amenable to getting a digital request, right? But in that case, we'll add it. There's another thing that I see people doing with the Hostco is, let's say your friend has a coffee shop, right? Joe's coffee shop. And you can put a tile in your store that says, get a free latte at Joe's coffee shop. And great, what a cool thing to do for your guest. Most people are going to go down to Joe's coffee shop and they're going to buy a free latte, and then they're going to buy 6 muffins, right, for their family, and 2 more things. So it's a loss leader for Joe, right? But what you can do is get a free latte at Joe's, put it in your cart. We'll give you a gift certificate or a receipt or a code on your receipt, free latte 101, take down to Joe's. You can also, on the back end, make sure that Joe sees every single one of those that you are offering. You can do the same thing with restaurants, but you have to have a relationship with that restaurant, right, in order to be making any money off of it yourself. If you want to do it just because it's helping people out, it's giving them cool offerings, you can use it for that as well. But again, the best part is it's keeping a record of every single person that's done it for you and for the restaurant.
Right, right. And then also, if people have the incentive of looking at your store because they can get the free latte, they're also going to see everything else they can buy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Head over
Yeah.
and get a free latte and dot, dot, dot. Right. And
Yeah, right.
in this case, you could just say in the title, the description, head on in and say Joe 101 or whatever to the coffee shop, but you're showing
Yeah.
them the other services. Yeah.
Yeah. Such a cool idea. Okay, next question. Do OTAs get angry about me sending guests to the store link?
As long as you are not trying to get them to book, I will say again, in 3 years, we haven't had a single complaint. We talk to the OTAs relatively frequently about what we're doing. It is the same thing as sending them a link to your PMS. Hey,
Right.
register here, guest, like we need some guest verification here. Hey, here's where you get a late checkout. If you're using Lodgify for your late checkout, keep doing that. It's probably better than the one, that we're doing for you because it's already automated. But it's the same thing as a property management software, sending them out. As long as it's not taking that overnight revenue away from that OTA, thus far they have been very happy with it because it's actually adding some new stuff for them.
Right, right. Okay, cool. Okay, so you already answered the first part of this question, but I think it essentially boils down to how do you get the things that you would be selling on site to them so quickly?
Yeah. If you have something that you're selling on site, our recommendation is to already have it on site. So if it's something on site, if it's firewood, again, I would say don't have a store. We do have people that have a full store because they are on site and then they have a bunch of properties, in their area. I would say stick to a couple of things that your guests are going to want on site. And what we do is we make it so that you can add information that your guest only receives on their receipt. So there's information you can block from them before they get the product. So let's say it's firewood. You can tell them, get exact instructions on where to find it, right? If it is a snack bag, you can have it in a cabinet that has a lock or a code. Or in many cases, people just put things out of sight. Like, hey, it's in a blank box over this place over here. Grab what you need, right? We also have a terms of service that we require guests to sign, including whatever you want to add. So they have to say, I've read and agreed to this description, which is, hey, if you take extra, you're responsible for it. We've already done their credit. We have all their information. So in that sense, we've seen very, very, very little people being like, oh, I'm taking 8 of these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I would say don't leave things. When we started, people were like, oh, I left out a basket of snacks. And I, maybe put a QR code with it. And a QR code is fine. I mean, if you want to do that, we have QR codes for every store. But kids will walk up and they'll take granola bars. Of course they will.
Right.
Right. So just make sure that if you are selling something, that it is not like just sitting out for someone to take. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the honor system works, but they also have to be aware that it's not for free, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And again, that dovetails nicely with don't sell things that are really inexpensive.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, I want to end with a few questions that are more tailored to the host co specifically, just to give everyone a better idea about what you all do. So this one asks, so the host co essentially offers a storefront for a property, and where can you include all affiliate products or add-on service, or like a storefront where you can add affiliate products or add-on services?
Yeah, you can. Oh, go ahead.
No, just do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. You can sign up for a Hostco store for free. You can say, hey, make me a Hostco account, just your name and email. And then it will then say, great, do you want to make stores from your Lodgify properties? Or do you just want to make a store manually, which is like, if you do it through Lodgify, it's going to be branded to your one listing. And this will actually answer another question, which is you will get one link per listing. You will get one link, but you can also add one product to all of your listings at once. You can say update the price of one product. So it's a higher level thing, but the reason why you have one store per listing is you can see the sales really easily. You can share the location really easily. It's just a lot, and it's all in one dashboard too. But you can, when you start a store, it immediately pulls in the vendors we've already approved in your area. So you already have a suite of vendors and also some templates for, do you want to offer late checkout? Do you want to add a pet fee? Right. And anything you can say, I don't want that, turn that off, turn that off, turn that off. And then you can also start adding your own. So, hey, you can make a store, it's pretty much ready to go. You might want to check that it has your cancellation policy you want, the prices you want. But then you can say, add things from this template of things we see selling all the time, which are quick add templates, or add your own thing with an external link. So add it to, again, if everyone's asking about your couch from West Elm, add a link to that couch, right?
Yeah.
The host code's free. Adding multiple external links, I think it's like $18 a month, but for every one of your stores. Like it's not $18 per store. It's $18. You can have 100 stores, right? Things like that. But in general, you do get some free external links if you want to link it back to your website, if you want to link it to your guidebook, etc.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. A couple questions, I think, from some European visitors. What are your vendors like in Europe and specifically Portugal, if you know off the top of your head?
It is very limited in Portugal for us having those vendor relationships. I think there's massage and chef. So
Okay.
much of that starts with you adding some of your own partners or
Okay.
you reaching out to us and saying, hey, can you add this one vendor? Everybody loves this one person. It's funny because we just came back from Portugal because the tourism board of Portugal said, we're getting ready for the World Cup. We have all of these hosts and there's very little automation around adding the extra things they want. And there's
Mhm.
also in some cases, this is like more rural areas, there's language barriers, right? So the host co, it's a website. It will translate into any language that you want. So we just had a really cool couple of weeks meeting with the Portuguese government.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool you get to be involved in that. And it's a great incentive for people if they want to offer an upsell that you guys don't have yet to just recommend someone local, right? And then it's there for everyone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, next question. Did you say the only currency available is US dollars?
So it is any currency. Your guests can pay in any currency, and you can get paid out as a host in any currency. But
Okay.
right now, it is only displaying US dollars
Okay.
on the website, which is annoying. I know it will be changed somewhat soon. There are certain regulations into changing it. But
For sure.
again, we see currency being exchanged on both ends, the payment coming in and the payout to you.
Okay. Awesome. That is good to know. And I think we'll take one more question. And this one is, do you have a typical percent host charge for upsells for their portion of profit?
Um, so it really depends. If you're selling a late checkout, you're keeping all of that, right?
Right.
You're keeping all of that. If you are using a Hostco recommended service, we're just marking up the cost of it a little bit, 5 to 10% of the revenue. If it's your own service, I would say it really depends on your relationship with that vendor.
Right.
You're bringing that person probably a lot more work and repeat work and automating that so those requests go directly to them. We have property managers who don't share the cost of the sale. So, for example, mid-stay cleaning, they can allow their guests to approve it, but
Mhm.
the cleaner cannot see the cost that they're charging their guest,
Okay.
right? It is totally up to you, again, how you want to do those sales. I will also say I get this question all the time, which is I am a property manager and I have owners. Who is getting the money from the upsells?
Yeah.
Um, Again, people do it differently. Some property managers say, this is guest experience. I'm in charge of it. I'm keeping the revenue. Some say, I'm in charge of it. I'm keeping the revenue, but I'm giving my owners a bonus every month. And I will tell you that is really good for loyalty. Some people say, I'm sending the owner all of the money and I'm invoicing them, at the end of the month. And I'm maybe invoicing them for a little less than I would typically, right? Or look at all this money you're making. The other kind of cool thing you can do with it is you can have just one product in your store or two if you want to that alert the owner every time it sells. And
Okay.
people love those alerts. They're like, "Ooh,
Mhm.
look, we sold something, right?" And you look like you're doing a lot more for your owners,
But
even
it's
though
automated.
it's automated. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Okay. So it really depends on what you're selling
yeah,
and your role, right?
yeah, exactly. It's totally up to you. If you're selling firewood, how much, what the profit margin on it you want to keep.
For sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, well, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Thank you again so much, Annie. This has been super, super helpful. Lots of great questions from everyone, and I think we all learned a lot. So, yeah, thanks again for being here. And do you have any last minute things you want to add or?
Yes, I would say one, if you go to our website, which is thehost.co, we have a chat bot. So you
Okay.
can ask any of additional questions that you didn't get answered here and say, hey, I was watching the webinar. And it will, if no one, if no one is manning the line right then, it will go through and it'll email us and I will get all of those questions. So I'm happy to answer any more questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone will appreciate that. And yeah, thank you again. Thanks for everyone attending and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for
Right.
having me as well. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.